He stood at the edge of the highway, soaked, still, like he was waiting for someone who'd forgotten he ever mattered. It was 7:45 in the morning, late September. The rain hadn't started yet. The sky was soft and gray over ridge. Hollow. A quiet town tucked between low hills and old fences. The kind of place where folks leave their doors unlocked and dogs lie out on porches, watching the world roll by like they've seen it all before. Emily had just gotten off her shift. 12 hours on her feet. One heart attack. One broken arm. One overdose. One baby born. She was tired. She always was these days, but not the kind of tired sleep could fix. She turned into the gravel driveway of a small rental house with a green porch swing and a chipped bird bath. Inside, the coffee pot clicked on. Old habits, even if she barely drank it anymore. Her 8-year-old son, Noah, was still asleep upstairs. He always slept curled into a ball, clutching the same threadbare stuffed bear his dad had given him before the accident. Emily paused in the hallway. She watched his chest rise and fall. Quiet. Safe. By 8:15, she was standing by the kitchen sink, peeling an orange. Rain tapped softly on the roof. The dog had not yet entered her life. Not in any real way, but just down the road, he was already standing there. They called it County Road 7. Long. Empty. Just enough curves to feel forgotten. The dog didn't move. Not even when a truck roared past. Not even when its tires threw water against his side. No collar. No tag. Ribs showing like broken lines under a soaked coat. Mud crusted around his legs. One eye nearly swollen shut. He looked like something life had chewed up and spit out. But his body didn't tremble. He stood still, facing the curve of the road like it owed him something, like it might still bring someone back. By 9:30, Emily had dropped Noah at school and was headed back down that same road. Rain heavier now. Her windshield wipers fought a losing battle. That's when she saw him. Just a flicker at first, a shape near the ditch. At first, she thought it was trash. A jacket, maybe. But then she saw the head lift. The stillness. The stare. She slowed. Rolled her window down. Hey there. Nothing. He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just stared like he'd forgotten how to react to kindness. She reached into the passenger seat. Found half of a protein bar. Broke a piece off. Tossed it gently toward him. It landed near his paws. He didn't move. Another car came. She had to keep going. She looked back in the mirror. Still there. Still staring. That image followed her all the way home. Later that day, she packed a sandwich, ham and cheese. Nothing fancy. She drove back. He was still there. This time, when she stepped out of the car, she knelt. She didn't call to him. Didn't move fast. She just unwrapped the sandwich, set it on the wet ground, then walked back to the driver's seat. Waited. After 15 minutes, he took a step. Another. Then stopped. She stayed until the sandwich was gone. Then she left. For 3 days, she came back. Each time, he edged closer. She started calling him Chance. Not because it fit, but because that's what she was giving him, one chance. And maybe, just maybe, giving herself one too. By the 4th morning, something had changed. It was 8:15. Still raining. Not hard anymore. Just a steady, soaking drizzle. Emily parked in her usual spot near the ditch. Same thermos of coffee on the dash. Same beat-up sneakers. Same quiet approach. But this time, as she stepped out and unwrapped The sandwich, turkey and cheese this time. He didn't wait. Chance walked forward, 5 steps, then 6. His body stayed low, ears flattened, legs tense like he was ready to run. But he didn't. Not yet. Emily set the food down and backed away, hands at her sides. No sudden movements, no soft words, just presence. She watched him eat for the first time up close. Every bite was fast, desperate, like he wasn't sure if it was real, like someone might come and take it away again. His eyes darted up between chews, watching her, measuring. She didn't blink. When he finished, he backed away, into the trees again, gone in seconds. But it was something, more than before, enough to keep her coming back. By the 7th day, Emily brought a towel, a cheap one, but dry. She left it folded on the passenger seat, just in case. Chance had started waiting for her, same spot, like he knew the sound of her car, the click of her door. She still hadn't touched him. He wouldn't let her. When she tried to reach out once, he growled low and dark, a warning from some past he couldn't forget. She whispered sorry and backed off. No rush, no need. Healing doesn't happen on command. At home, Noah started noticing the change. "Why are you always gone after drop-off?" Emily just smiled. Work stuff. But that night, as they sat on the couch watching cartoons, she opened her phone and scrolled through the photos. There, blurry, far away. But there, a brown shape in the grass, a sandwich wrapper beside him, a tail barely visible. "Who's that?" "His name's Chance." Noah leaned closer. "Is he ours?" "Not yet." 2 days later, Emily left the back hatch of her SUV open. She sat inside, cross-legged, rain thudding on the roof. Chance hovered 20 feet away, tail down, ears back. She tossed a bite of chicken toward him, then another. Inch by inch, he moved forward, eating each one, never taking his eyes off her. Then, just before the last bite, he paused, looked at her, a full look, then walked away. But slower this time, less fear, less urgency. Like maybe, just maybe, he was thinking about coming back. By the 2nd week, he did. And this time, he followed her car all the way home. It was 10:30 in the morning when she parked by her porch. Chance stood in the driveway, wet and uncertain. Emily didn't move. She opened the garage, set down a bowl of water, left the door cracked. He didn't go in, but he stayed nearby, all night. At 3 in the morning, thunder rolled over Ridge Hollow. Emily heard it, sat up, heart tight. She walked to the front window and opened the curtains. There he was, curled beside the porch swing, soaked again, shivering. She opened the door, stepped back. It took him 10 full minutes, but he came inside, not far, just past the rug. He stood there, rain dripping onto the floor. No growl this time, just waiting. Emily laid a blanket down near the wall. No expectations. He stood a while longer, then, slow as breath, stepped onto the blanket, curled tight. Didn't sleep. Not yet. But didn't move, either. Emily watched from the stairs. A lump rose in her throat. Not sorrow exactly. Not hope, either. Just something she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Maybe it was the sound of paws against floorboards. Maybe it was the silence finally feeling less empty. In the morning, Noah woke up early. padding down the stairs, rubbing his eyes. He froze when he saw the shape in the corner. "Mom?" Emily nodded from the kitchen, her voice soft. "It's okay. That's Chance." Noah stared, then slowly walked over, sat cross-legged near the blanket. He didn't reach out, but he didn't back away either. Chance lifted his head, watched him. After a long moment, Noah opened his hand. A cracker. Peanut butter. Chance didn't move, but his nose twitched, and his tail gave one small wag. It was early, 6:25 in the morning. Sunlight cut through the blinds in thin golden strips, painting the living room in warmth and dust. Chance hadn't moved from his blanket all night. Emily stepped down the stairs quietly, coffee in hand. She paused at the bottom, watching him. He was asleep, for the first time. Not just resting. Truly asleep. Breathing slow. Legs twitching softly, as if chasing something in his dreams. Maybe freedom. Maybe memories. She didn't disturb him. Just watched, heart full and quiet. That day, everything moved a little slower. Emily called out of work, said she needed the day. No reason, just needed it. She opened the garage, let sunlight pour in, placed a bowl of food just outside the threshold. Chance walked over without fear this time. A new sound followed, the clicking of his nails on the driveway. Sharp, real, present. Noah sat on the porch with his knees pulled to his chest, cradling a tennis ball. He didn't throw it. Not yet. He just held it out. After a while, Chance walked over, sniffed. Then, gently, almost uncertainly, took the ball in his mouth. Noah whispered, "He likes it." Emily smiled. No words. Just heartbeats. That evening, as dinner cooked and the house, filled with the smell of garlic and butter, Chance hovered near the kitchen doorway, watching, waiting. Emily bent down, held out a piece of chicken. No movement. Just her hand, still and open. Chance inched forward, close enough to smell her fingers. Then, without hesitation, he took the food. But this time, he didn't step back. He stayed. Emily didn't move. Her fingers brushed his cheek. Lightly. A whisper of contact. His body froze. Then, relaxed. Just a little. She knelt, hand still against his fur. Damp. Wiry. Scarred in places. And in that moment, he looked at her. Really looked, as if asking, "Is this safe?" She didn't answer out loud. She didn't need to. By the weekend, he was following her room to room, still cautious, still watchful, but always nearby. Emily noticed the little things, how he never barked, never whined, how he flinched if she raised her hand too fast, how he never touched the couch or climbed the stairs, as if he thought he didn't deserve comfort. Sunday morning, Emily found the courage to bathe him. She filled the tub. Warm water, gentle soap. Chance stood at the door, unsure. Noah brought a towel and sat nearby, humming. It took 10 minutes, but Chance stepped in. Emily washed gently, spoke softly. His body trembled at first, then stilled. She rinsed the soap from his back, revealing hidden scars, thin lines across his ribs, faint but permanent. Noah didn't ask. He just whispered, "He's not bad. Somebody else was bad." Emily nodded. That was enough. That night, Emily lit a candle on the porch. The stars were out, wide and endless over Ridge Hollow. Chance lay at her feet, his head resting on her boot. She sipped her tea. Noah leaned against her side. The town was quiet. The pain of the past still lingered, like smoke after fire. But it didn't burn quite as much anymore. She looked down at Chance, and for the first time, she saw not a stray, not a problem, not a rescue, but family, a piece of something broken. Now whole. He fell asleep, with his paw touching hers, and when she went to bed, he followed, curled up just outside her door, like a silent promise. He wasn't leaving. Not again. It was Tuesday, 8:15 a.m. Noah was already on the bus, waving. From the window, his backpack bounced as the vehicle pulled away down the gravel road. Emily stood at the front porch with her coffee, wrapped in a sweater, watching it all fade into the tree line. Chance lay nearby, still, quiet, eyes always scanning. That's when the call came, a neighbor, shaky voice, out of breath. You should come see this. Behind the creek, by the old shed. The sun hadn't burned through the morning fog yet. Everything was still damp. The air smelled like earth and rust. Emily drove halfway, then walked the rest, Chance trailing her like a silent shadow. The shed was half collapsed. Broken boards, moss-covered roof. A place forgotten, but not by everyone. Inside, tucked behind splintered wood and black bags, was a crate. Metal bars, bent at the hinges, chewed through in places. Chains, a chewed collar, a filthy, torn blanket. Emily knelt slowly. No words, just the understanding. This was where he had come from. Chance stood behind her, unmoving. His eyes weren't wide. He wasn't panicked, just still, like something in him recognized the space. Not in fear, but in resignation. He stepped forward, sniffed once, then turned away. Emily didn't cry right away. She drove home in silence. Chance sat in the back seat, head resting on the window, not watching the trees, just waiting. She parked, walked inside, closed the door. Then she sat down on the kitchen floor and cried. Not just for him, for her. For the years she spent surviving after her husband's accident. For the nights she couldn't sleep. For the mornings she forced herself out of bed because Noah needed cereal and shoes. Chance padded over, slowly, gently, laid his head in her lap. She didn't speak. Her hand found his fur, held it like a lifeline. That night, thunder rolled in. Heavy wind shook the gutters. Noah was afraid of storms. He padded into Emily's room, blanket in hand. Can I sleep here? She pulled back the covers. He climbed in beside her. Chance followed. 3 hearts under one roof, listening to the sky roar, each of them carrying cracks too deep to name. But somehow, together, it didn't feel so heavy. In the weeks that followed, something shifted. Chance wasn't just healing. He was learning. He started to bark, not in fear, but in warning. When a stranger came to the door, when a raccoon snuck through the trash, when the wind rattled the fence just a little too loud. Emily laughed the first time she heard it. Deep, protective, whole. You've got a voice, huh? Noah began teaching him tricks. Sit, stay, paw. Chance wasn't fast, but he tried, and when he got it right, his tail would thump against the floor so hard it shook the lamp. Emily watched from the hallway, phone in hand, recording quietly. Not because she needed to post it, but because some moments deserved to be remembered. One Saturday, Emily took Chance for a walk beyond their usual path, out past the meadow, down into the clearing where her husband used to take Noah fishing. The stream still ran clear. Dragonflies skimmed the surface. Emily sat on the log. Chance lay beside her. She whispered into the wind, "I thought I'd never feel again." And then she looked at Chance. But I think he brought the pieces back. They sat in silence until the sun started to dip, and for the first time in 2 years, she didn't feel alone. It was a Sunday evening. Just past 6:30 p.m., Noah was building a puzzle on the floor. Pieces scattered like raindrops on the rug. Chance lay nearby, ears twitching with each distant bird call through the open window. Emily was cooking, or trying to. She hadn't made homemade lasagna in years, but tonight, something told her it was time. Something about the smell, the warmth, the soft hum of Noah humming an old song under his breath. The house felt full again. The wind picked up. Fast. Then, a faint scent, sharp and sour, carried in through the open window. Burning. Emily froze. Chance stood, ears locked forward. A low, steady growl vibrated in his chest. Then came the first scream, far off, distant, from somewhere up the hill. Emily rushed to the door. Smoke, thin but rising fast. A single column climbing into the dusk. Noah ran to her, sighed. "Is that?" It was the Jasper family's house, the old red farmhouse just a few properties down, and it was burning. Emily grabbed her radio, but her hands were shaking. The signal cut. Static. Her phone was charging in the bedroom. The fire was spreading fast. Too fast. She turned. "Noah, get your shoes. Now." She threw on boots, shouted over her shoulder. "Stay inside. Do not leave this house. Lock the door if I'm not back in 20 minutes. Then she ran. But Chance didn't stay. As the door creaked open to let her out, he slipped past. Silent. Focused. Emily tried to shout, but he was gone. Down the path, legs pumping, like something inside him knew exactly what had to be done. By the time she got there, the porch was collapsing. Flames danced like devils in the windows. Someone was coughing inside. Mr. Jasper. An older man, half conscious from smoke. He was trying to carry his wife. She couldn't move. Emily lunged in, crawled through, wrapped her arms around Mrs. Jasper, pulled. Then the ceiling cracked. Chance barked, loud, right behind her. Not a scared bark, a command. Emily turned just in time to see him grab Mr. Jasper's sleeve with his teeth and tug. Hard. Together, they got them both out. Just before the front beam came down, the fire trucks arrived minutes later, sirens painting the night in red and blue, neighbors crowded, cameras, questions. Emily sat on the gravel road, arms black with soot, holding a bottle of water to Mrs. Jasper's lips. Chance sat next to her, panting, tongue hanging out, one paw, scraped raw, but he never flinched. Later, after everything cooled, the flames, the adrenaline, the lights, a local news van showed up. Someone handed Emily a mic. She shook her head, but then Noah ran up, and beside him, Chance, tail wagging like he knew something big had happened, but wasn't sure what. Emily took the mic. She looked down at her dog. He's not just a rescue. He's the reason they're alive. That night, back home, she bandaged his paw. She whispered, "Thanky. You," then kissed his forehead. He licked her cheek, once, then curled up beside Noah, who was already fast asleep on the couch. The house smelled like lasagna. But it smelled like something else, too. Safety. Like home. The next morning, the house was still. Sunlight poured through the kitchen windows in soft golden lines. Chance lay, sprawled at the foot of Noah's bed, the bandage on his paw slightly frayed but clean. Emily sat by the kitchen table with a mug of coffee. She didn't drink it, just held it between her hands, watching her son sleep, watching Chance breathe. She couldn't stop hearing the crackle of the fire, the bark, the way Chance pulled that man to safety like it was instinct, like he was born for it, like somehow that broken, abandoned dog she found on the highway had remembered what it meant to matter. By 9 o'clock, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. The mayor, the fire chief, reporters, neighbors leaving flowers and dog treats on the porch. Someone left a basket with a note, "To the bravest soul in our town. We're lucky you stayed." Emily wasn't used to attention, but this wasn't about her. It was about him. At noon, she sat Chance on the front porch and brushed his fur. The mud was long gone. His coat had filled in. Still a few scars, reminders of the life before. But he sat proudly, tail thumping against the wood, eyes bright. Noah joined her. He handed her a sheet of paper. "We're making him a medal." Emily smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. A full smile. No hiding, no pain behind the eyes, just pride. Real, human, bone-deep pride. By late afternoon, a small crowd had gathered in the town square. Nothing official. Just people showing up. Some with dogs of their own. Others with signs. One read, "From forgotten to fearless." The mayor stepped up with a homemade ribbon pinned to a velvet collar. Bright red, shiny gold star in the center. He bent down and placed it gently around Chance's neck. The dog blinked, tilted his head, then wagged like the world had just told him he was enough. Emily didn't speak, didn't need to. She stood beside Chance, hand resting on his back, eyes wet. She saw Noah in the front row, holding the paper medal he'd made. He waved it above his head, shouting, "That's my dog." The crowd laughed. Some wiped their eyes, because everyone there remembered how they'd seen that same dog months ago. Matted, limping, afraid of touch. Now he stood tall, proud, like he belonged to something again, like he'd never been alone. That night, the family, curled together on the couch, Chance between them, the medal still around his neck, glinting in the lamplight. Noah rested his head on Chance's chest. Emily pulled a blanket over them all. She didn't need to say anything, but she did. Soft, almost a whisper. "You saved more than them, you know." Chance exhaled, low and steady. His tail thumped once. The TV played, but no one watched. The warmth in the room said everything. This was a new chapter. Not a story of rescue, but of becoming. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm that felt almost sacred. Noah would wake first, always before the alarm. His footsteps pattered down the hallway, then the soft creak of the fridge. Chance waited, sitting perfectly still, tail wagging as the boy handed him a slice of turkey or a chunk of cheese. Emily pretended not to notice, but every morning she smiled behind her coffee cup. Spring settled into the town slowly. The air grew warmer. Birdsong returned. The scar on Chance's paw began to fade, and with it, so did the old, flinching tension in his body. He didn't jump at the sound of footsteps anymore, didn't shy from hands. In fact, he started doing something new. He leaned against legs, against Emily's side as she read on the porch, against Noah's shoulder when they watched. Cartoons, the kind of leaning that says, I'm here, I trust you, I'm yours. At the clinic where Emily worked part-time, she brought Chance with her sometimes. The patients loved him. Old men with tired eyes would light up when he approached. Children in wheelchairs reached for his fur. One little girl whispered, "Makes it not hurt so much." And Emily felt something click inside her, something soft and sudden. Chance wasn't just healing, he was helping others heal too. One Saturday, they visited the field behind the school, just an open stretch of grass, and trees, no fences, no leashes. Emily hesitated. She still remembered the version of Chance from that rainy night. The one who wouldn't come close, the one who flinched, the one who looked like trust was something that had been beaten out of him. But Noah called, "Go, Chance!" and the dog ran, full speed, ears back, tongue out, free. He didn't stop until he reached the far tree line, then turned back and sprinted straight into Emily's arms. Later, lying in the grass, they all watched clouds. Noah pointed out shapes. Chance lay on his side, legs twitching in dream. Emily listened to the wind, the laughter, the quiet. For once, her mind didn't drift to the past. She didn't think about hospitals, or the siren that never came in time, or the night she had to tell her son, "Daddy's not coming home." She thought about this dog, this strange, broken, beautiful creature who had found them when they needed it most, and who, somehow, seemed to know exactly when to sit a little closer. Back at home that night, Emily pulled out a dusty old photo album. She hadn't touched it in over a year. Noah climbed into her lap. Chance curled at her feet. They flipped through the pages together. Weddings, vacations, baby pictures. Then one photo made. Emily paused. A picture of her late husband holding a tiny puppy. She ran her finger across the image, then looked down at Chance. Different dog, but the same feeling. Something about second chances, about not choosing the pain, but choosing what to do with it after. She closed the book and whispered, "I think he would have liked you." Chance stirred, lifted his head, then dropped it gently on her foot. No more running, no more waiting. Just here, just now, just love. It started like any other night. Noah was brushing his teeth. Emily stood by the sink, folding laundry, soft hums under her breath. Chance was curled in the hallway, paws tucked neatly under him, ears twitching with each sound in the house. Outside, the wind picked up. Leaves rustled. Clouds drifted over the moon. Emily kissed Noah's forehead, tucked him in, then padded to her room with a yawn so deep it felt like her body was finally catching up with months of sleepless grief. Somewhere around 2 a.m, Chance stirred. First, a blink. Then his ears perked. He sniffed the air. The scent hit him like a memory. Acrid. Wrong. Smoke. He stood, nose lifted. Then, the sound. A distant crackle. Glass. Wood shifting. He moved to Noah's room first, nudged the door open. Then to Emily's. Nothing. She was deep asleep. She didn't hear the faint sirens in the distance. Didn't hear the wind shift. Didn't smell what he smelled. So he did what instinct told him. He barked once, loud. Then again. Then He ran to Noah's room and scratched the door with growing panic. Noah stirred, sat up. Chance? Another bark. Faster now. Noah swung his legs down, rubbed his eyes, then he saw it. The faint orange glow through the window. Not the sunrise, not headlights. Fire. The neighbor's house, just 2 lots away, was burning. Flames had caught the side paneling. Smoke drifted into their yard like a slow, thick fog. Noah screamed for his mom. Emily bolted from her room. Chance barked again, standing by the front door now, pacing like he wanted out. Emily grabbed the phone, called 911 with trembling fingers. Noah cried as they stepped onto the porch. That's when they saw it. Mr. and Mrs. Donnelly's back door wide open, and their dog, Pepper, barking frantically at the smoke. Emily didn't think. She grabbed Chance's leash, slipped on shoes without socks, and ran. The fire had already eaten through most of the Donnellys' kitchen, but the bedrooms were untouched. Not for long. Chance led the way. Not pulling, just determined. Inside the smoke, Emily coughed hard. She shouted for the Donnellys. No answer. But then, a moan. Mr. Donnelly had fallen. Smoke inhalation. Emily dropped to her knees, tried to lift him. Too heavy. She looked at Chance. He stood next. To her, eyes locked, tail stiff. No fear. And then, movement behind her. Mrs. Donnelly, disoriented, but alive. She screamed when she saw her husband. Together, with shaking limbs, they dragged him outside. The sirens were close now, fire engines howling in the night. Later, in the chaos, smoke still rising, hoses blasting, voices yelling. A paramedic looked at Emily and said, "They would have died in their sleep if you hadn't gotten there when you did." But Emily shook her head, pointed at Chance. It wasn't me. That night, when the adrenaline wore off and the sky turned pale with the promise of morning, they all sat in the grass. Neighbors, firefighters, strangers. Noah had his arms around Chance, face buried in his fur. Emily sat beside them, exhausted. The Donnellys approached. Mrs. Donnelly knelt slowly, her hands still trembling, but her eyes clear. She placed a single hand on Chance's head and whispered, "Thank you." No one said much after that. There wasn't anything more to say, only that they were alive, because of a dog who had once stood on the edge of a highway in the bow rain, and who now stood at the center of a miracle. The town woke up to news that spread faster than the flames had. Small-town word of mouth was like that, tender, tangled, and swift. By sunrise, everyone had heard. The Donnellys' house had caught fire. Emily and her dog had saved them. But those who knew the full truth told it differently. It wasn't Emily. It was Chance. People stopped her at the gas station. And I made the grocery store, even at the stoplight. They leaned into her window, soft-voiced and wide-eyed. "That your dog? The one from the fire?" She nodded, every time, always followed by the same sentence. "He's a hero." But Chance didn't know he was a hero. He still curled up at the foot of Noah's bed every night, still watched birds with quiet wonder through the back door, still flinched when the vacuum turned on. Some scars ran deeper than memory. Emily saw it in the way he avoided raised voices, in the way his body stiffened at the sound of snapping twigs. She never asked what had happened before that rainy night on the highway. But his body told the story, his mouth never could. The mayor called 3 days after the fire. There was going to be a town ceremony. Nothing big, Just a thank you. Emily hesitated. She didn't like attention. Chance liked it even less. But Noah begged. He said Chance deserved it, and deep down, Emily knew it too. The day of the ceremony, the park was packed. Old lawn chairs, children, waving hand-drawn signs. Someone had even made a banner. Thank you, Chance. Emily held his leash with one hand, Noah's hand with the other. Her palms were sweating. Chance walked beside her, tail down but steady, calm, like he understood something important was happening, but didn't need to be proud of it. The mayor stepped up to the mic. He wore a suit that didn't fit quite right and held a plaque that shimmered in the sun. He cleared his throat, spoke about courage, instinct, and the way animals often see danger before we do. Then he bent down, smiling wide, and placed a small, round medal on Chance's collar. The crowd clapped. Some wiped their eyes. Children whispered. Wide-eyed, he saved them. He really saved them. But the moment that stayed with Emily wasn't the applause. It was what came after. When Chance turned, looked up at her, and gently leaned his head into her hip. Just for a second. Just enough. Like he was saying, I'm here. Not lost. Not waiting anymore. That night, after the medal was hung on the wall beside Noah's crayon drawings, Emily sat on the porch with a cup of tea. Chance rested beside her, his nose on her foot, breathing slow and deep. She looked out at the stars, clear and quiet. Her heart felt different, lighter, warmer. And when she glanced down at him, she whispered, You brought us back. She never told anyone what Chance had given her that night. Not just safety, not just love, but a reason to believe again. The days after the ceremony settled into a new rhythm. Chance no longer skulked near the edges of the yard or flinched at loud noises. But healing wasn't a straight path. It was jagged. Emily noticed how sometimes, at night, Chance would wake with a start, ears pinned back, trembling just a little. She would quietly stroke his head, whispering soft words, not to erase the past, but to help him carry it. Noah took to reading stories out loud to Chance, sitting cross-legged on the floor, voice steady and calm. It was their quiet ritual now, boy and dog finding peace together. Emily found herself changing too. The numbness she carried for months began to crack. The ache of loss softened, replaced by something like hope. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't dramatic, it was slow and steady. She started opening the door a little more, to neighbors, to friends, to possibility. Chance became more than a dog who survived. He became a reminder that broken things could be whole again. That second, chances weren't just words. One afternoon, Emily watched him chase a butterfly across the yard, tail wagging with pure joy. That same dog, who once waited silently in the rain, was now alive with light. But every once in a while, when the wind shifted just right and the sky darkened, Emily would see the flicker of fear in his eyes, and she would hold him closer, because some wounds take longer to heal. And sometimes, love means being patient enough to wait for that healing, step by step. That night, as the house grew quiet, Emily sat by Chance's side and thought about the journey they'd taken together. From broken to brave, from silence to safety, and she knew one thing for sure. They had saved each other. Months passed, and life seemed to settle into a steady, peaceful rhythm. Chance was no longer the scared dog at the highway's edge. He was a fixture in the town, a quiet guardian who loved his family fiercely. But one chilly evening, a stranger appeared at Emily's doorstep, a woman, weathered and worn, eyes filled with a complicated mix of hope and regret. She claimed to have known Chance before the rain, before the scars. Emily felt a flicker of unease. The woman spoke softly, telling stories about a life Chance had once lived, a home he had lost. She wanted him back. Chance didn't remember this woman. He didn't know her voice, but the fear in his eyes returned in an instant. That old shadow, buried deep, stirred awake. Emily's heart clenched. She understood too well the pain of loss and betrayal, but she also knew what Chance had gained. Safety. Love. Hope. The choice wasn't easy. She faced a decision that tested everything they had built together. Would Chance return to a past that hurt him, or stay in a present where he had finally found peace? Emily stood firm. Chance belonged here now. He belonged with them. The woman left quietly that night. No more visits. No more demands. Chance never looked back, and Emily never doubted for a second that they had made the right choice. Even though the Yui stranger was gone, Chance still carried invisible scars. Some nights he paced the living room, eyes darting to the windows. Other times, he flinched when hands reached out too quickly, or voices grew too loud. Emily learned patience wasn't just about time. It was about understanding. She slowed down, let Chance set the pace, watched him from a distance until he was ready to come closer. Noah became his gentle companion, the one who knew exactly when to offer a slow blink or a soft treat. He never rushed, never pushed, just steady warmth. The bond between Chance and Emily grew through small moments. The way Chance leaned into her touch after a long walk, how he rested his head on her lap during quiet evenings. Trust was fragile, but with every soft nudge and gentle look, it grew stronger. Emily realized healing wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about making new memories, safe, slow, and full of love. One afternoon, Chance followed Emily into the kitchen, tail wagging lightly. He stayed close as she prepared dinner, quietly watching, waiting, and when she dropped a small piece of chicken, he caught it with a careful snap. No hesitation, no fear. It was a small victory, but for Emily, it meant the world. Healing was no longer a distant hope. It was here, in the quiet trust between a woman and a dog, who had both learned to start again. The early morning light filtered softly through the kitchen window, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. Emily stood at the sink, rinsing the last of the dishes from breakfast, while Chance lay, curled at her feet. The dog's breathing was steady, calm, a far cry from the frightened creature who once trembled at every sudden noise. Noah sat at the kitchen table, his small hands busy drawing with colored pencils. His eyes lifted now and then to Chance, a quiet smile tugging at his lips whenever the dog's tail gave a small, contented wag. It was a morning like many others, peaceful, slow, full of ordinary moments that now felt precious after everything they'd been through. But beneath the calm, Emily carried a knot of worry. Chance's past was never far from her thoughts. The scars on his body were fading, but the memories they held were not so easily erased. She thought about the woman who had come knocking months ago, the woman who claimed she had once been Chance's owner, the way Chance had recoiled at. Her voice haunted Emily. She knew the dog had been through more than most could imagine. That afternoon, Emily decided to take Chance for a walk in the woods outside town. The trees stood tall and proud, their leaves whispering secrets in the soft breeze. It was a place where Chance had slowly started to relax, where he could run freely without fear of cars or strangers. They moved at Chance's pace, Emily's, hand resting lightly on his back whenever he paused to sniff or investigate. Noah tagged behind, skipping stones across a shallow creek. For a moment, the world felt safe again. Suddenly, a distant bark echoed through the trees. Chance stiffened, his ears pinned back, and he growled low in his throat, a sound Emily hadn't heard in weeks. He took a step back, eyes darting to the edge of the clearing. From behind a cluster of pine trees, a man appeared. His clothes were worn and dirty, eyes wary but curious. Emily's heart tightened. This was no friendly hiker. The man held up his hands slowly and said, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just looking for my dog." Chance's growl turned into a whimper. Emily's pulse quickened. The man stepped closer, speaking softly. "I'm sorry for how I left him. I was going through a hard time, but I want to make things right." Emily's mind raced. Was this the same man? The stories the woman told about Chance's past were scattered and painful. Did this man belong to that dark chapter? She knelt down, keeping Chance between herself and the stranger. Chance looked to Emily, seeking protection. Emily whispered, "It's okay. I'm here." The man's eyes filled with tears. He said, "I don't want to take him away if he's happier here. I just want to see him one last time." The moment stretched, heavy with history and fear and hope. Chance's body trembled. His tail was tucked tight, and he pressed close to Emily. Slowly, the man reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn collar with a faded tag. Chance's ears perked up. He sniffed the collar, then looked at the man. Emily's heart broke and lifted all at once. She stood and faced the man. "You can see him, but Chance stays with us." The man nodded, understanding the weight of her words. They moved to the edge of the clearing. Chance hesitated, but allowed the man to kneel beside him. The man's hands shook as he touched Chance's fur, tracing the scars. "I'm sorry. I never meant for him to suffer." Chance looked up at Emily. She smiled softly, tears in her eyes. "You're safe now. You're home." The man stood and backed away, leaving Chance with the family who had saved him. That night, Chance slept closer than ever to Emily. Noah tucked a blanket around him. Emily watched them, feeling the fragile thread of trust stretch a little longer. Chance was no longer just a survivor. He was family. But the past had tested their bond in a way nothing else could. Emily knew the road ahead might still hold shadows. Yet here, in the quiet night, she believed in the healing power of love, steady, patient, and true. Chance had risked everything to trust again, and she would never let him down. The months after the encounter with Chance's past owner felt like walking a narrow path between hope and fear. Emily watched Chance closely every day, searching for signs of healing, waiting for the moment when the old wounds would fully fade. Slowly, the dog's confidence grew. He no longer flinched at sudden noises or hid in dark corners. His eyes, once dull and haunted, began to shine with quiet joy. Noah's laughter filled the house more often now. He and Chance were inseparable, exploring the woods together, playing in the yard, and sharing stolen treats beneath the kitchen table. The house, once heavy with silence, was slowly filling with life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the family sat on the porch. Emily leaned against the railing, Chance lying beside her, his head resting on her knee. The air was cool, the smell of damp earth and pine thick around them. Suddenly, a faint wail pierced the quiet. It was coming from down the street. Emily's heart skipped. The sound was distant but urgent, a cry for help. Chance's ears perked up instantly. He lifted his head and sniffed the air. Noah's eyes widened. Emily stood, sensing something was wrong. She called to Chance, who was already on his feet, his body tense and alert. The family rushed toward the noise. Flames licked the sky at the end of the street. A neighbor's house was on fire. Smoke billowed thick and black. The crackling of burning wood was loud in the still night. Emily's breath caught. She wasn't home when it started. No one had called yet. Chaos reigned as neighbors gathered, trying to help. Noah's face paled. Chance darted toward the burning house, barking furiously. His voice rose above the crackle and panic. Emily called after him, but the dog was determined. Chance scratched at the front door, barking non-stop, desperate to get inside. Noah stirred, rubbing his eyes. He looked toward the noise and then toward the house. Something clicked in Noah's mind. He ran inside the house to grab the phone. Emily chased after Chance, heart pounding. The fire department arrived minutes later, but those moments before felt endless. Thanks to Chance's barking and scratching, Noah had time to call 911 and wake the family next door. The neighbors escaped just in time. When the firefighters arrived, Emily hugged Noah tightly, tears streaming down her face. Chance sat nearby, panting but alert. In the days that followed, the town buzzed with talk of the brave dog who had saved a family. Emily watched Chance with new eyes. This dog, once abandoned and broken, had become their protector. At the small town event, weeks later, Chance received a medal. Emily's smile was brighter than it had been in years. Noah stood proudly beside them. But the true reward was the quiet moments. Chance's head resting on Emily's lap, his tail wagging softly, and the warmth in their home finally filling every corner. Chance had found more than a family. He had found a purpose, and in the hearts of those who loved him, he would always be a hero. The months that followed Chance's act of bravery were quieter, gentler, but no less full of meaning. Life settled into a new rhythm, marked by small routines and shared silences that carried more weight than words. Emily often caught herself watching Chance, the dog who had once been nothing more than a shadow on the roadside, now a steady presence at her side. On a cool spring morning, Emily woke early and stepped outside with Chance trailing behind her, tail wagging gently in the fresh air. The world was waking up slowly, birds singing in the budding trees, dew sparkling on the grass. The moment felt fragile, like the first breath after holding your breath too long. She knelt beside Chance and ran her fingers through his soft fur. He looked up at her, eyes warm and trusting. It was hard to imagine the dog he had been. Cold, alone, afraid, and the dog he had become. Noah joined them, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, but smiling wide when he saw Chance. The three of them stood together in the quiet morning, bound by something deeper than words. The kind of love that grows through pain and healing, through waiting and hoping. Emily thought back to the rainy night she first saw Chance, the hopelessness in his eyes, the way he froze, as if waiting for someone who never came. It had been so easy to look away, so easy to pretend he wasn't there. But something stopped her that night. A small, stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, this dog could still find a way out. She had given him that chance. And in return, Chance gave her something she didn't realize she was missing. The scars on Chance's body had faded, but didn't disappear entirely. They told a story of survival, of pain endured and strength found. Every mark was a reminder of the journey they'd walked together. A journey from abandonment to hope, from fear to courage. At times, Emily worried about the past that Chance carried inside him. Would those memories ever fully leave him? Would he ever forget the nights spent shivering in the rain, the hunger, the loneliness? But then she saw how he moved now, with confidence, with joy, how he greeted each day as if it were a gift, how his eyes sparkled when Noah ran to him or when Emily called his name. Their bond had grown into something unbreakable. Chance was no longer just a dog in need. He was family. He had become a hero in ways no medal could capture, a guardian, a friend, a light in the darkness. One afternoon, Emily sat by the window, Chance curled up at her feet. She felt the weight of everything they had been through and the promise of everything still to come. Noah played nearby, his laughter filling the room. The house, once heavy with grief and silence, was now full of life and love. Emily reached down and scratched Chance behind his ears. He lifted his head and licked her hand. For the first time in a long time, she let herself smile fully, without fear, without guilt. Because she knew, deep in her heart, that Chance had saved more than a neighbor's family that night. He had saved them all. The dog who had been abandoned on the roadside was home at last, and home was where he belonged. Dogs truly are the most loyal companions in our lives. What did you think of this heartwarming story? Let us know in the comments. Like the video and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel for daily emotional dog stories. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Click here to watch the next story of love, loyalty, and the incredible bond we share with our pawsome friends.